Welcome to the Bowhunter Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Now, here's your host, editor Christian Berg.
Welcome back to the Bowhunter Podcast. We are all bow hunting all the time. We are heading in towards the latter part of October. And if you're almost anywhere in whitetail country, that is an exciting time as these bucks are starting to get a little bit antsy. I've been seeing a lot of scrape activity, a lot of fresh rubs in my area. And we're going to dive into a topic today that I hope is going to help all of us to be more successful this fall. And that is what to do with your trail cameras now that your scouting season is over and your hunting season is here. And are there things that we should be doing differently with our cameras now that we maybe did in the summer and in the early fall? And so to help us have this conversation and I think offer some tips, some advice, some words of wisdom that are really going to be helpful, I've got my friend Mark Olis from Moultrie. Mark, welcome to the Bowhunter Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Christian. I'm excited to be here, and like you said, this is an exciting time of year, and you know, I'm here in Alabama, and we're like one of the last ones to come in. Our archery doesn't even start until tomorrow. So, you know, since the advent of social media, I just sit around twiddling my thumbs while the rest of my buddies around the nation are bow hunting.
Yeah, and you get to see like everybody you know kills a big buck before you, right?
Every year.
Yeah, but then we're jealous in December and January when your rut's cranking up.
That's exactly right.
Well, for those who are listening or watching today, if you don't know Mark is a diehard outdoorsman, hunts all kinds of stuff, but certainly bow hunting and whitetails have got to be right up there at the very top of your list in terms of your passions and your interests. And Mark, you have been with Moultrie for quite some time. I don't even know how many years. How long have you been at Moultrie?
Gosh, it's I believe it's 7 years I've been here now, and then obviously I've been running their cameras for much longer than that.
Yeah, for sure. And Moultrie, you know, you guys have been making great cameras for a long, long time. And we had an opportunity to spend some time together earlier this year when you guys launched your 2025 line. I mean, gosh, I'm running a bunch of these new Edge 3 and Edge 3 Pros, and you know, I don't want to get too commercial, but I would say, guys, if you are out there, if you're looking for adding some cellular cameras to your arsenal and you haven't checked out these new Edge 3s, wow, they're great. They're super easy to set up. They take awesome pictures and videos, and you know, the Moultrie app is fantastic. And you know, we put a whole project together highlighting that stuff. But gosh, I mean, the technology is amazing now, Mark.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The cameras, like you said, and then once you get into the app, I mean, all your hunt planning, everything you need to plan your hunt is in the app. We could do several podcasts on that.
No, and yeah, right. And we don't, like I said, I don't want to get too commercial, although I do love Moultrie, been running their cameras for years. This is going to be for anybody. Hey, look, even if you're running old school cameras where you're swapping your SD cards, you can benefit from this because, you know, why don't we just start out big picture here, Mark? Because I think we all kind of do things the same way, regardless of when your rut is. You know, you might start a little bit later than the rest of us, but I can tell you this, you know, and it's kind of the same old story every year. I put out all these cameras in the summertime, you know, sometime around the 4th of July or shortly thereafter, and you get some mineral sites going, or you get some mock scrapes going, and over the course of the next several months, you capture all these deer on video. You always get a handful of big bucks. You get yourself really excited, but then the season comes and all those big bucks, you know, that you had as regulars throughout the preseason are laying very low right now. And all I can tell you for sure is if I wanted to kill one of those big bucks I had on my camera in August or September, probably the best place to do that would not be where those cameras are right now, because I'm not seeing them on those cameras. So then the question becomes, Mark, should I Should I move my camera? Should they still be on them? I mean, the mineral sites are kind of dormant, right? I mean, I haven't freshened them up in a long time. In most states, it's probably not legal to do it. It's not here. I can't go out and put any of that stuff out at this point now that the season is open. So what's my sort of shift strategy here with my cameras if I want to use those to try to be, as efficient as I can as a hunter this fall?
Well, and it's I always love the old saying, the October lull, right? It gets this moniker that like the deer are not moving, like they're not doing something. I mean, they still got to eat, they still got to drink, they still got to do all those things, right? And that's what October is. It is a transitional time of year. So all that awesome summer activity that you got, and deer at big bucks out in the middle of bean fields and all that fun stuff, that's over. The deer have moved from those areas. Now, they may not have gone far, but, these deer are changing their diets too. So, when those mineral sites were really getting hit hard, those deer are eating literally pounds of green, very water rich vegetation in the summer, and they have to expel that. That's why they go to that salt. I mean, that actually helps them get rid of that excess moisture. Well, now that they're going into winter, their diets are switching. They need those carb and fat rich foods, right? And we're talking acorns, mast, persimmons, acorns. And, those are deep in the woods. So these deer aren't just as visible as they used to be. So you actually, I love in season scouting. I never stop scouting. Once the season starts, I go for strolls. I've got a little squirrel dog. I take her out, and we go and we start working these bottoms. And that's where I start to find new sign, places that I wasn't maybe getting deer on camera, but this time of year I am. And it's those white oak acorns, pin oaks, things like that. And then you're going to start seeing those rubs now in those areas, and those scrapes in these new places where you didn't see them before. And let's face it, once those bucks shed the velvet, they become tough, right? I mean, they're not the nonchalant summertime buck that they were. So you really have to find those food sources, a lot of times in the woods and close to their bedding area. They're not wanting to travel far to go eat. They want to maintain their routine because it's not the rut yet, right? They haven't broken wide open. They're not roaming big distances. So you do got to get out there and find those different foods during this transitional time.
All right, let's take a quick break and share a word from a sponsor. Bowhunters. If you live for the hunt, you know it's about more than the gear. It's about the community. The Archery and Bow Hunting Super Show, January 9 and 10 in Indianapolis, brings that community together. Get a first look at the newest bows, arrows, and hunting gear. Learn from the pros and swap stories with hunters who share your passion. January 9th and 10th in Indianapolis. The gear, the knowledge, the people, all in one place for the first time ever. Don't miss it. Get your tickets and more information today at archerytrade.org/Super Show. I'm looking forward to being there, and I hope to see you as well. Check it out.
No matter where your pursuits take you, no matter the quarry, there's always an element of chance.
Deer.
But skill is more reliable than luck.
I feel like we're in a pretty good position. We're just gonna have to wait.
The most trusted archery authority, Bowhunter TV. Watch now on Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, and My Outdoor TV.
And you mentioned your dog, and you had a really cool experience this past weekend, and I think we should dive into that because I think it leads to something that's led to a lot of success for you over the years. But one thing you were telling me is you like to go out and do some squirrel hunting early in this part of the season. And it's kind of like a double mission for you. Yeah, you're out there with your dog and you're shooting some squirrels, but you carry cameras in your pack when you go do that. And you're, like you said, when you find an area that looks promising, you're just putting a camera up right then and there.
Yeah. So my pup, she's eat up with squirrel hunting. She loves it. So I got to take her. And when I do, I always carry 2 to 3 cameras. They're already activated. I've got the battery pack in them. They're literally ready to strap to a tree. I just got to turn them on. And I carry those every time I go with her. And on our local public ground, it's a large area. So I like to explore new bottoms with her. So we'll go hunt a place we've never hunted before. One, it's just fun to see new country and hunt it. But two, I'm scouting while I'm going, and it may not be that area ends up being somewhere that I spend much time hunting. But if you can eliminate an area, that's just as good as finding an area. So and over time you start building this this list of spots that are good hunting spots. They hold bucks, maybe they hold does. So once the rut comes around, you want to go hone in on those areas. And that's what I do. So I took my little dog out yesterday morning. It was Monday morning. We got out there at daylight, and it was a brand new bottom on this public land along a river, and it was gorgeous. One of the prettiest bottoms I found there. And we did about a 3.5 mile loop, and I dropped 3 cameras in 3 promising spots. One, we're really dry now. We're in a drought down here. I think probably a lot of the East is, maybe, I don't know, but
Yeah,
we are
and
here.
very dry here.
Yes. So water is really, really important. A lot of those creeks that had water through the summer, through the winter, they're dry as a bone. Well, we found a creek that was running really nice, and it's right at the edge of the main river, which has a lot of water. So I put a camera up on one of those steep banks, and I've got it angled looking down in the bed. There was a lot of deer tracks there. And again, this was a new bottom. So I put that camera up. I've already had 3 or 4 deer pass through there getting a drink of water, and that camera's been out 24 hours. So I'm already starting to see, and some of these cameras, I may leave them 2, 3, 4 weeks. And then if it's not really something that I'm seeing a buck, or maybe the activity is not great, hey, I'll go in, we'll hunt that spot again. I'll pull those cameras and I'll move them to a new location. So I'm always moving cameras, especially on those public grounds where I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, and you had kind of a treasure find the other day too, didn't you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, Saturday morning. So my little pup, she turned 3 on Saturday, and of course I had to take her squirrel hunting. I mean, what kind of dog owner would I be if she couldn't hunt on her
Well,
birthday?
they get very upset if you forget their
Oh
birthday.
yeah, 100%, 100%. So of course we went squirrel hunting out on the public land, and we were on a creek bottom. It had water, and there was a lot of white oaks, big mature white oaks that were dropping. So I'm looking for sign. We kicked a buzzard up out of a tree, and then as we went along, man, we really started kicking buzzards up, and then they started flying out of the creek and everything. And when I got down there, I found a dead deer in the creek. And here in the deep South, we don't have the mass outbreaks of EHD like you're seeing in the Midwest. There's immunity in the deer herd here, but there are deer that succumb to it. And let's just face it, they live in the wild. These deer could die of anything, right? So this deer was in the creek, obviously went there, probably was infected, had a fever, and it died. And I saw it was a buck when I was up on the hill above it. So I went down to investigate more. And man, it is one of the biggest, like most mass antlered bucks I've ever laid eyes on here in Alabama. I mean, this thing looks like it's from Illinois or Iowa or something. So yeah, truly unique find. I've never even had a deer on camera of this size down here.
Well, you posted some pictures on your Instagram, I think, and that's where I saw it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. On my Olis outdoor account, I've got them on there, and I'm still. I brought it to the office today because everyone's like, "Man, let me see that buck. Let me see that buck."
It was like a non-typical, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's a mainframe 8 with some kickers, but the mass, and he's got like palmation and mass way out on the beams. I mean, I can't even get my hand around it. It was I don't know, maybe once in a lifetime find around here.
Well, it was good that you found it, but it's bad that you're definitely not hunting that buck.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate for that quality of an animal to, the squirrel chew its antlers up or something and it not be preserved. But yeah, it'd be really nice to have him on trail camera right now.
Uh, it would, but better yet that he just spends the rest of his life in Mark Olis's office at Moultrie headquarters.
Yeah, he's got to air out some more. It was a little stinky.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's not up. He's not up yet.
Well, yeah. So you okay? So there's an example of obviously there was a really good deer in that area, but you were also telling me, I think you've got it like right over there in the corner behind you. You said like I don't remember if you said it was last year or some years ago, but similar type of a situation where you had been out on one of these sort of early season forays and you put some cameras out, you ended up hunting in one of those areas and you killed this really great buck, right?
Yeah, so you might look at this and say, "Oh, okay, nice deer," but man, this is a public land 10 point here in central Alabama. So really great deer.
Oh, dude, I would shoot that in Pennsylvania. I would shoot that thing in a heartbeat and it would be like my best Pennsylvania buck. So
Yes.
there's no shame in that deer whatsoever.
No, heck no. And I mean, truly a trophy deer for this area. And yeah, so I last year, the local public land here, it's a funny story. I haven't hunted it. I haven't deer hunted it. Last year was the first time in 17 years. So I grew up in this area. I used to hunt it. Went off to college, moved around, was in hunting leases, stuff like that. Just didn't dedicate time. But getting that squirrel dog, I was taking her out there to squirrel hunt. And while we're going through these bottoms the year before last, man, I just saw tremendous deer sign. And I'm like, why in the world am I not at least spending a little time out here, deer hunting? So I made a conscious effort last year to start placing trail cameras. And I started doing that in June. I wanted to get a jump start. And I just had to learn roads and gate access and all that stuff again. It's a 40,000 acre piece and it runs this river. So it's really stretched out. So there was a lot to learn. I wanted to focus in on the closest area to home here. And I started laying those cameras. And anyways, I'd kind of looking on the map, had found this one area that was promising. It had mixed clear cut with hardwood bottoms. So it had that nice different edge cover, bedding cover, food. And on Christmas Eve, it was a nice cold day. So I said, you know what? I want to do a loop through this area that I had been staying out of on purpose. I didn't want to go blowing deer out. So I waited till Christmas Eve, took my little dog with me. We did a little squirrel hunt and I had 3 cameras with me. And as we worked through the area, I found a lot of, and for context, Christmas is like the rut here. That's when our deer are rutting in this part of Alabama. So I was finding a bunch of fresh scrapes and rubs and really good sign. So I dropped cameras in a couple spots. And one of the spots near where I killed that deer, I didn't see that deer, but 30 minutes after I placed it, middle of the day, had a mature 8 point go through there. So I knew the deer were in there. So of course we had Christmas the next day, and then I was up bright and early the day after Christmas, got in there, selected a spot to kind of stand hunt for a while. Didn't see anything. Came out, went to that bottom where I'd placed that camera and had that mature 8 point run through right at like 30 minutes after setting it. It rained for a little bit, nothing, did a little rattling and all this. And so it was probably about 10:30 in the morning. I started easing up the bottom into this area where on Christmas Eve, I found a tremendous amount of fresh scrapes and rubs. Like every sapling was broke. I mean, you could just tell a deer was spending time in there. And as I worked through there, I actually jumped a doe, maybe 25 yards in front of me, and that guy got up right behind her. I got a great side profile view of his antlers. Didn't have to think about shooting. Just knew it was time to shoot, and it was real thick. And I actually ended up dropping this buck on the run as he made his way up a ridge following that doe. So it was a super cool story. I was shocked, when he dropped and everything, and it took me a while to calm down. I'll say that.
Well, that had to be a gun hunt, right? You didn't shoot him on the run with your longbow.
It was,
right?
it was. There was a special. It's mostly bow hunting in there, but they have these little like mini gun seasons where they're like a couple days at a time. And
Yeah.
so, and they had one after Christmas, and I took the rifle in there on that day. I'm
Gotcha.
glad I had it too.
Well, and so there's an example. Honestly, I mean, the camera played a role to a certain degree in your success, but honestly, you didn't have a picture of that particular buck, and it was more so just your eyeballs and going back to an area where you saw the freshest, hottest sign.
Yeah, and then it was the validation because I actually on the two cameras in that 48-hour period, I had three separate mature bucks. So it was obvious these bucks were cruising and spending time. And that just shot my confidence through the roof to go get in there and hunt. And I just planned to stay all day.
Yeah, and that's a good example of how, sometimes like we can get obsessed over a particular deer that we have pictures of. And you hear Bill Winke, is one who talks about this a lot. Like he uses this term. I think it's kind of a weird phrase, but I've gotten used to hearing him say it over the years. You've got to find them back. In other words, you had him, it's a deer that you had on your camera. So you found him the first time, but then he disappeared. So you have to find him back. That's how he puts it. You have to find him again, I think would be a better way to say it, or relocate him. And he'll do that, and he'll just move the cameras. And then literally like every 3 days, he'll just move his cameras. And that's fine. But I don't think the average deer hunter, which I kind of consider myself in terms of like the circumstances that we have to deal with. In other words, we're hunting, we don't have a lot of ground that we control for exclusive rights. We're hunting public ground, or we're hunting private land that other people have permission to. So, we don't control everything. We're not doing some kind of a curated deer hunting experience here. We're hunting in the real world. And most of us would just be happy for any mature buck. And to that point, this is a great way to just say, okay, maybe all those big deer that you had on your cameras in the summertime or the early season aren't around anymore. So, they're not there anyway. So you got to move your cameras. So move your cameras, and maybe you don't find that buck back, as Bill would say, but you find a different mature buck, or you just find a spot where you're like, by golly, I mean, there's does and coming and going, and there's little bucks, and there's a couple decent bucks, and I'm just going to go in there and hang a stand or get up in my saddle or whatever, because I just don't know what might show up in that area.
Absolutely, and I would say that that's exactly my mentality. I think I've got one buck I killed that was the buck I wanted to kill one year on camera. That's it, out of my entire hunting life. So I definitely don't get hung up on one animal. On that piece of public ground, I had a buck much bigger than this buck, the 10 point that I got. But there was no rhyme or reason to. I couldn't pattern that deer. He was very nomadic and wandering. So he would disappear for 5-6 days, show up on another camera. So I wasn't gonna utilize my hunting time is valuable like anyone else's. I've got family and work and things like that. So I wasn't gonna burn it on that one deer. A mature buck is a trophy to me, no matter what's on his head.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about this. Okay, we talked about, moving. Maybe you need to move your cameras. If I don't even say maybe. If you're not seeing anything you want to shoot on the cameras, move them. Maybe you don't have to move them far. Maybe you move them 100 yards, or maybe you move them half a mile. But you ought to at least move them a little bit, and then keep on moving them until you hit something of interest. But so let me ask you this again. Like putting it on a feeder or a mineral site, that's easy. What about now? Let's say something real world, like I mentioned it earlier. You talked about it in those bottoms, the rubs and the scrapes, the fresh sign you were seeing. Let's say I find a couple really good scrapes in a particular area, but obviously there's probably some deer trails in that vicinity too. Would you actually set up your camera on the scrape, or would you say, well, I know that I don't really know if this buck is, or whoever, I don't know what buck made that, but regardless, I don't know if that buck will ever come back to this scrape, but he's probably using this area. Would you just set up your camera on a trail and like point it down a trail, or would you rather be right on that scrape?
So I I always like to look bigger picture than just a rub or a scrape. So the rubber scrape tells me there is a deer here utilizing this area, but it's so easy to place a camera, and that the deer you're wanting to maybe look at is walking behind that thing, right? So you're looking at a very finite area. So what I usually do, especially if it's kind of like public land where I'm kind of exploring, while I'm in that bottom, while I find that sign, I'll pull up that map section in the app, in the Moultrie app, and I'm looking at the surrounding terrain. I'm looking at the topographical features, and I want to know more specifically, where is the likelihood of that deer bedding? Where is that deer spending its time where it feels safe? And then where is it going, and why is it going somewhere? Is this the trail it's using? If I feel like that trail, to your point, is maybe the main route, then I'm going to put it on that trail. If I feel like maybe that buck has got a series of scrapes or rubs, and it seems like he's using a terrain feature or some kind of neck down point, I really try to get, we've always, in the hunting world, we always talk about pinch points and things like that. I really like to put a camera in the most neck down place I can find in that spot, just so I can see the most activity. Because it is easy to miss deer, especially if it's a wide bottom and there's 3 or 4 trails going through there. Well, I mean, unless you got 3 or 4 cameras, you're really trying to find out how many of those deer can I get to walk in front of this one camera.
Here's another thing too. Again, go back to sort of your feeder or mineral site placement. Yeah, we like to get really close to those deer because we want these pictures where the deer fills up the whole frame and you really can see a lot of detail. And of course, these newer cameras are taking such high resolution images and videos that it's really entertaining. But the actual field of view on these camera lenses is pretty wide, and if you just set it back a little bit more, to your point, yeah, you might not be able to see everything perfectly when you blow that image up, but it's better for you to get a picture of as many of the deer passing through that area as you can than to have a picture perfect, crisp, high res image of one particular deer.
100%. The intel is far more important than, you know, however nice that image is, and all that. Yeah, on my hunting lease where we have feeders, food plots, things like that, different scenario. I can really get those cameras located, and I know the deer's going to be right here, like standing on the X. That's different. On public land, even if I can't tell fully, I can tell, hey, that's a mature animal that I want to go after, for sure.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about camera settings and transmission settings. Like, let's just start with camera settings. So, would you do things differently? For these kind of scenarios that we're talking about now versus sort of preseason.
Yeah, so again, on my hunting lease, different scenario. We got feeders. We have private access. I mean, I'm running solar panels. I'm doing things different. On public land, I'm running a camera with a rechargeable battery pack in it. I'm not trying to make that thing stick out like a sore thumb. And I'm traveling light. I'm usually walking back in there far. So I absolutely, and those are on trails too, right? Like a deer, a feeder is going to have a far more activity than a trail in the woods, right? Where there's not that agriculture or food plots. Because of that, your battery's not going to get worn down as quick. But battery life is always of the utmost importance, because if I do set that camera up in a new spot and it turns out to be a great spot, the last thing I want to do is go in there and mess around and lay more scent, because I need to change a battery. So I usually run my upload times maybe twice a day. So like every 12 hours, those immediate uploads on cell cams will absolutely burn through your battery. So I don't do that. And then, I like to run video, because I really I want the intel. I want as much of that picture or deer that I could get. So I do run it on video, which is going to burn battery more. But when you alter those upload settings from immediate to every 6 to 12 hours, you can run that on video. And I literally have cameras that I can run, on public land the entire season, and I don't have to change those batteries. So that's a big deal. On my hunting lease with feeders, those batteries would die pretty quick. So, I've got solar panels and all that stuff.
See, I would actually quibble with you on some of what you just said, because I thought you started out on the right track, and I was like buying into what you were saying, but then I started to disagree. Your point was, look, you're putting this thing out in the woods, it's on a trail, or it's overlooking like a ridge line. Maybe there's a little clearing on the edge of a thick bedding type area. Maybe you're like, okay, the deer, and there's a trail there. So you're like, okay, maybe the deer are bedding over in there, and they're probably swinging out this way. If we know there's like a good, acorn source, or maybe there's some ag down the ridge or whatever. Most of the time in a trail type setting, to your point, you're not getting 50, 100, 200 pictures a day. I would actually set it, and again, I'm talking in season. Season is open. I would set it on a low delay for photo and video, and I would have an immediate upload, because every morning when I wake up, Mark, the first thing that I do is grab my phone, which is right next to my bed, right on the bedside table. And the first thing I do every morning, it should be, thank the Lord for waking up another day, or opening my Bible and reading some scripture. It's not. It's open the Moultrie app and see what has come in since I shut my eyes the night before. And I would want, at my spots, I want to know where might I be going that morning, because I would change where I was going to go if I would see a mature buck and I was like, oh, he was there 2 hours ago. I'm going into that spot that day. So I don't care necessarily if I wear down the battery, because to me, one of two things are going to happen. One, the camera location isn't going to be all that active, in which case I'm not taking that many photos anyway. So even if I have it on immediate upload, it's still not going to wear the batteries down that fast. Or two, I'm getting so much like activity on this new spot that it's drained my batteries in 6 days. And yeah, I need to change the batteries, but more than that, I need to just get in there and hunt,
No, I would say that's right. And the good news, you can run it either way. What I guess I'm looking more at extended, like for the season. Now, if I know I'm going hunting, that's the great part about these cameras. I will change that setting. So on hunt days, prior to that, 24 hours earlier, I'll change it to immediate mode. Like for example, that Christmas day after Christmas hunt. When I put those cameras on Christmas Eve, you better believe they were on immediate mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't run my cameras on immediate mode at all outside of the season. I do every 6 hours, but I just recently, like within the last few days, switched a bunch of my cameras to immediate because for that exact reason, because I'm literally waking up and then looking at that and being like, where should I go? And I just want to know too, like, right now what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of younger bucks. It's funny. I have video. I have videos. I have a mock scrape that I put out with a rope over it, and I have videos of does, banging that, nudging that rope and smelling the rope. I have a video of a young buck coming in and peeing right in the scrape. And I'm just waiting for when I start to see some of the bigger, more mature bucks do that kind of stuff, and then that's going to be like when it's time to go in and hunt those areas. So it really valuable to me that way. Now let's transition a little deeper, and this will, I think be Moultrie specific to a certain degree, but I know that the other manufacturers are doing some similar things. But you guys have incorporated a whole host of predictive models too, where you can not only use your own trail cam intel, but the weather data, the wind data, whatever it is that you guys are doing, where it'll actually tell you, about the day itself. Is it a good day, not such a good day, a great day? That's sort of global, but then even tying it and drilling it down with some of these new like subscription offerings that you have for your specific property, right, Mark?
Yeah, so that's you're referring to the game plan. That's what Moultrie calls our predictive feature. And so the unique thing about game plan that you get over other predictive whatever, or whether it's an app, a website, whatever, is game plan is pulling in recent deer movement from Moultrie cameras, and it's for your area. So you drop a pin or enter an address and say, here's the area I want to hone in on. So it's going to pull in the recent deer movement from your cameras in that location, but it's also going to pull in anonymous deer movement data from other Moultrie cameras in that area. So you're hunting in Pennsylvania, you've got your game plan set for your hunting area there. You're not getting intel from Iowa or Kansas. You're getting it from your local area when the deer are moving. And so the algorithm factors that recent activity in along with the other things that are known indicators of increase or decreased deer movement. Cold fronts. Is it really windy? Is it heavy rains? Those weather inputs as well. And the really cool thing about when that system was being built by our team, they worked on it for 2 years before they ever released it. We wanted to release it a season early, but we're like, no, we want this thing to be as accurate as possible. So the team fed every kind of input that they could into that system. And if it didn't correlate with deer movement, then it's not in there. And we know the deer movement because the camera is capturing it, right? So you can take a look back and say, hey, were we right? But we were figuring the deer were going to move. Did they move? So it took a couple years of development. And the neat thing is you can look at that now and look at that chart. And to your point, it's on a graph system. It's a forecast. So it's a 24-hour, 3-day, or up to 9-day. And it'll show you, is it going to be good, poor, great? And it'll show you the times and the dates so you can plan out, hey, maybe you got some vacation time, but you don't want to burn it on a bad hunting day. So you can use that game plan to kind of forecast out when you're going to go hunting. And I've been amazed at looking at that and then going back and looking, okay, it said it was going to be great at this time. Man, my cameras are blowing up with deer movement for that time it said. I mean, it is really remarkable how well that system works.
And that is something that is subscription based, right?
Yeah. So gosh, and they're going to kill me for not knowing exactly, but I think if you've got like an unlimited plan, it's included. If you're on like a pro plan, it's included. If you're just on the basic plan, I think that's like a part of the Hunt Planning Plus subscription, which is I think another $4.99 a month. And that's not per camera. That's just on your app.
Gotcha. So, I mean, it's really just another tool to try to, like you said, maximize your time. And you combine that with all your other in-person scouting, your camera scouting, you've really got a powerful tool there. And at the end of the day, nothing really beats just getting out there for a few hours and seeing it with your own eyes.
Oh, 100%. There is no replacement for, in the field, boots on the ground. But yeah, just going back to that Hunt Planning Plus, that 499, that features the predictive model, that features ideal winds. So on the map itself, you can drop your tree stand pins, and then you can set the winds. Like, okay, for this stand, I need this, these winds, this wind. And then once you set that, you just pull up that map and it'll show you green or red if your stand's good for that day. And then if you click on that stand, it'll actually give you like a 9-day readout and show you the days when that wind is going to be right for that stand. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really good. The mapping features, and we did, some videos on that too. The mapping features within Moultrie Mobile, it's not Moultrie Mobile anymore. It's just the Moultrie app. It's really amazing. You've got all your satellite, your topo, you've got your land ownership, your property boundaries, your public lands, your hunt units, all kinds of information. And then, like you said, these newer cameras have built-in GPS. So your camera locations, I noticed that. I took that Edge 3 Pro out just this past weekend and put it out. And as soon as I turned it on and it checked in for the first time, it was pinned on the map right there on the property. And then, like you said, you can add your stand locations, your blinds, all that stuff. Put in the favorable winds for those stands, and then you'll know right away like whether this is a good option for a particular day. And
That's
really
right.
helps me when I'm not thinking straight at 5 a.m. and I haven't completely woken up and I grab my phone.
Yeah, or when you're deep into the rut, and you haven't had any sleep anyways, and you can't think straight. So it's one app that you can do all your hunt planning through.
Well, I tell you what, Mark, it's an exciting time because you never know what you're going to see out there in the deer woods. And the cameras just give us that ability, especially with the cellular technology. What is every good bow hunter, if you've been doing this for a while, if you've never sat in your tree and thought, man, I wish I could be at 2 or 3 places at once, you're not a bow hunter, because I think we all think that, especially when you're not seeing something, and the cameras give us that ability to watch multiple areas and try to, if we're not in the action, to figure out where the action is and make moves and not just have to beat our heads against the wall. It's not random. You could randomly move, which is what you'd probably say to do. Hey, you keep hunting, you hunt a particular spot 3 or 4 times, you're not seeing anything. Well, obviously you're going to try somewhere else, but the cameras help you to do it in a much more educated manner.
Yeah, and I'd rather my camera be out there wasting time instead of me wasting time. Time is the one thing that's so valuable, when you're just busy like we all are. So the cameras can, like I was saying earlier, if you can eliminate a spot, that's just as good as finding a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are just getting started down in Alabama, but I think you've got some other hunts lined up this fall, don't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go out to Texas during the rut. So next month, gonna head out to Texas. That Texas is always fun. So definitely looking forward to that. And yeah, and then I'll just be hammering it around here. I love deer hunting. I love the fall. So yeah, and I haven't been able to get out yet. Season opens tomorrow, so I will be bow hunting this weekend. That's for sure.
Well, I am leaving for Texas tomorrow. and it won't be the rut, but I am going on a whitetail hunt down in Texas. You're going when? In November, right?
That's correct. Yes, mid-November.
Now, do they rut in Texas in November?
Yeah. So again, Texas isn't as wonky as Alabama, in Florida and stuff, but yeah, they do. So you've got the kind of traditional November rut, and then you have areas that further south and east that have that kind of more of your southern late rut. But where I'll be heading, they'll be rutting there in that mid-November time frame.
Well, that's exciting. I've hunted whitetails in Texas several times, and it's always been either earlier or later than the rut. And one thing I've never had an opportunity to do, but it's kind of on my bucket list, is to do one of those rattle hunts down there where you go around the brush and you just do all those setups. You move a little ways and then you set up and rattle. And I think that'd be great fun to try to do that with a bow. And they're so responsive down there. I just can't imagine almost ever pulling that off in Pennsylvania. But down there, I know TV's TV, and yeah, you're seeing their best 20 minutes of footage, but like they rattle and like two or three different bucks will come charging in different sets. And it's like, that's craziness.
Well, and I hopefully we'll be able to do some of that because I'm like you. I grew up watching the Real Tree shows and all that stuff, and yeah, they're over there in Texas rattling in all these deer, and I'm like you. I'd like, oh man, I need to rattle here in Alabama. I remember being a teenager and younger, and yeah, I never had anything come in.
No, or like what I did when I was young, you'd experiment with stuff. So you'd see a deer, out of range or whatever. You'd be like, oh, what's going to happen when I rattle? And the darn thing runs complete opposite way for the next count. Be like, he's out of here, man. He wants no part of like getting his arse kicked over here.
That's exactly right.
Same thing with decoys here in Pennsylvania. I have used some decoys here, and man, a deer comes and sees that decoy, and it's like they turn inside out, man. And it's like, I'm not messing around with that thing anymore over here. Like I know it works out in Kansas, but I'm telling you, I don't want to keep using it here in Pennsylvania.
No, I think you guys are a lot like us. The more you can stay invisible, the better you are.
That's your best hope, And like those darn old does, man, God forbid, they get a little bit of your wind, because then it's like, oh boy, it's on now. She's not going to leave until one of two things happen. She's either going to find you, or she's going to walk around back and forth until she gets agitated enough to start blowing and stomping and take everything, with her out of there when she finally decides to leave. It's challenging. There's no doubt about it.
I'm with you. My mission this weekend, we manage the property that we hunt on, so we've got to take a number of does per our management goals. So I'm going to try to take out some of those wise does here early in this bow season so they don't pinpoint us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I did take one doe already, and it was a similar kind of thing where she wasn't too crazy, but she was definitely like looking over and stuff. And I didn't waste a lot of time. She came into this little food plot, and she was just like staring right at this blind that I was in and kind of pacing. And I was like, as soon as you turn sideways, I'm letting you have it, because I'm not sure you're going to be here very long. And I don't want you to ever remember this.
That's
and
right.
So she doesn't have any memories anymore. So
you're fine. Good.
Well, listen, man, it was great talking to you. And I know you had that hunt because I was trying to get you to Ohio with me this year, and I think the dates just conflicted, but you've got to save some time. We got to get you out of there, out of the deep South a little bit earlier in the fall before your rut kicks in, to come up and hunt some of these Midwestern deer.
Well, hey, man, we're going to plan that one next year. We're just setting dates.
I'm scouting it out for you this year. I got that Airbnb set up. It looks like a real good spot, and I'll pin a bunch of good trees there on the farm, and we'll have it all dialed in for you next year.
Man, that sounds great, Christian. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on. And man, I wish you the best luck and safe travels in Texas.
Well, thanks. Same to you. You've already got one really nice, almost record quality rack there to your credit from Alabama this year. And maybe you'll get a second one that you actually shoot.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the freezer's getting low, man. Got to get some meat in there.
Well, thanks again, Mark. I really appreciate your time. Keep up the great work at Moultrie. I'm really enjoying, the Moultrie system, and hopefully it helps both of us to seal the deal here before too long.
Absolutely. Good
All
luck,
right.
man.
Well, yep, you got it. We'll see everybody next time on the Bowhunter Podcast.
Thanks for downloading the Bowhunter Podcast. All bow hunting, all the time. Pick up the latest issue of Bowhunter magazine on your local newsstand or connect with us online at bowhunter.com.